Hi everyone, thank you for joining the Fight with Teddy Atlas. I'm Teddy Atlas III, joined by Boxing Hall of Famer, the pugilistic poet, my main man, my father, Teddy Atlas. How you doing, bud?
I'm a poet and I don't know it, like Muhammad Ali would say. Thank you for all the compliments and just thank you for being you. And I hope all the people out there had a good 4th of July weekend and gave a little thought to how great this country is and just how fortunate we are to have this country and how many people sacrificed to have this country. You know, um, those great songs that are written about this country, starting with the national anthem, they were written in blood. People have to remember that. They should remember that once in a while. They were not written necessarily with just ink. They were written with the blood of many brave soldiers that gave everything, as they say, the ultimate price for what we enjoy today, this country, and all the freedoms that this country offers us and gives us, that sometimes all of us, myself included, take for granted. So happy 4th of July. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend, and enjoyed the fireworks, enjoyed the birthday of this country, enjoyed plenty of good barbecue. I know I did, a little too much, to be honest. But at my friend John and his son Joey's house on Friday, it was tremendous. And then, of course, to really cap it off was little Adeline, your niece, my granddaughter, one of my granddaughters. Nicole's little Adeline turned 2 yesterday. We celebrated her second birthday. I celebrated it feeding her cake, and she was feeding me cake. There's no better way to celebrate a 2 year old birthday than to feed each other cake. If you haven't done it, I would suggest try it. You will like it. If you're fortunate enough to have a 2 year old granddaughter or daughter, for that matter, or niece, as my son has. Um, Now we can turn our thoughts to what we talk about every week, boxing. And I hope everybody's enjoying the stuff my son's putting up. You know, he's got me putting content up all week with the social media pages. He's got me putting up the the pages, the lists that you guys are asking for. We did best jabs of all time last week. I hope you guys enjoy. My son says you are. And as long as you are, and as long as you're coming out, just, obviously showing your interest by coming out, we're going to keep doing it. But I hope everybody, I hope everybody is enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get right into it, bud. Not a lot of action this week. There's no UFC fights. There's only one fight we're going to cover now in boxing. But there was some news we'll touch on later and some previews for the big fights coming up starting next week. So with that being said, we'll get into the first fight, and the only fight we'll be covering, Jack Catterall versus Harlem Eubank. This fight was in the UK, an all-UK bash. And Catterall, former world title challenger, most recently lost to Arnold Barboza. This was his return back to the ring and back to the win column. He took on Harlem Eubank. Now, Eubank, a lot of people might not be familiar with. He didn't start boxing until 18 or 19 years of age. He was a former karate world champion. He is the cousin of Chris Eubank Jr., the nephew of Chris Eubank Sr. So obviously boxing is in the blood there in the Eubank family. And I thought it showed, but I thought he was very raw, very green. He was even skipping around the ring at times instead of boxing and moving. And it led to, with Catterall's style, it could be a little bit of a stinker at times. A little bit looking to counter and pick his spots. It was a boring fight. It was a sloppy fight. It was an ugly fight for 6 rounds, and then a headbutt ended it. Accidental headbutt. Both fighters were cut. We go to the scorecards, and in the end, Catterall gets the win. Unanimous decision. What'd you make of this fight?
Nobody wants to see anybody get cut or get hurt. But I would think that there was a few people that probably said, "Oh, I'm glad." Whatever it took to end that, that's where we needed to get to. The end! Sometimes you got to get to the end. And we got to the end with the cut. But look, it was not was not a comfortable fight to watch. I think that's the nicest way I can say it. One of the commentators called it a chess match. You know what? I differ. If that's a chess match, they never moved a piece. They kept really chess matches for the commentators that said that, fellas. You need to actually move pieces across the board. That's chess. You know what I mean? Your rook, whatever you're moving, your knight, you're getting your queen in play, but you're moving the pieces. There wasn't much moving of pieces or of hands in this fight. Now, I know there was a lot of people knocking it down. Look, first thing I say is that I don't think they were running, but I wouldn't call that great boxing either. And I'm not a guy who says you have to be coming forward to make a boxing match, that you have to fight, if you want to use that simple word. I'm not the guy. I know it's the sweet science. Nobody understands it or respects it, I don't think, much more than I do. I understand that it's boxing. It's the sweet science. It's a mix. Some people's styles are aggressive to do it. Some aren't. You have all these different, just like if you go into Dairy Queen, you got different flavors of ice cream. You got different flavors of styles. But these styles did not mesh. And not only that, but what you touched on, Eubank did show that he just was limited. He was limited with his expertise. He didn't have enough tools in the toolbox. He hasn't had a lot of time to develop those tools, to have those ideas. And I thought there were times where you could see it, at least me as a trainer, where he didn't know what to do. He wasn't confident. He wasn't, you could see he was a little tight. He wasn't confident in himself and in his skills or his development of those skills at this point in his career, stepping up in class, to know what to do and to feel confident that he could do it. And therefore there was a lot of trepidation, a lot of posturing, a lot of posing, a lot of this. This is not this. Just for those who might be confused, this, what is that? Is that the Karate Kid? Brush on, brush off. What was that famous line?
Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax.
Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand. Wax on, wax off.
This wasn't a Karate Kid movie. I don't want wax on, wax off. You know, Rich? I want this. Bob, bob, bob. Not this. And so there was, and I'm being honest. And I don't care if people like it. They come here because they want honesty. You're going to get honesty. And I think it was, I'm not knocking him. I'm not trying to knock him. I'm pointing out some of his shortcomings. I just don't think Eubank was or is developed enough in this business, in this sport, at this level, to do the things that had to be done. And that lack of confidence, that lack of knowledge in those areas, the lack of comfort zone in those areas, made him hesitant. And the hesitation manifested itself in this form. In doing this, he was trying to con his way a lot of times. Again, I use the word posturing, but he was the dog that was barking at the door, but he never left the door. He was, you know what I mean? He never, the door's open, he's barking, but he ain't coming out to do any biting. And again, I'm pointing out in my business how that was interpreted, how it came about, how I saw it, and why I think we were seeing it, because of those lackings in those areas. Now, the other guy, Catterall, you got to throw something on him too. You got to throw a little shade on him too, as far as making this a dark night, if you will, not a brilliant night. But that's his style. He's a counterpuncher. He was born a counterpuncher. He'll die a counterpuncher. That's his style. He's not an exciting style. You want excitement. You're not really saying, okay, when is Catterall fighting? Let me look at here he's fighting on the 18th. You're not doing that. He's a good counterpuncher. And he had nothing to counter because the other guy, in some spots, he reached in, he got a little crazy, but not much. Other than that, it was what I said. It was wax on, wax off. You can't counter wax on, wax off. It doesn't get counted. You can't Simonize that. You can't. So there you had an impasse. You had two wrong styles. And one guy, because he's just, I think, underdeveloped, doesn't have the confidence, doesn't have the wherewithal yet at this point in his career because of what you pointed out, because he didn't have that background. He started late. So at the end of the day, you got the headbutt. I'll tell you something interesting about the headbutt. I'm not accusing nobody of doing anything on purpose. I'm not doing that because I don't know. But I do think that I go down different roads than other people because I see some things I don't think they see because they haven't done this their whole life. Where sometimes you get desperate. You don't know. You don't know what to do. You don't know if you can continue down that road into that room. That it's not getting lighter. It's getting darker. And I think there's a possibility a little of that was going on with Eubank, where I thought that Catterall was warming up a little bit. He was getting a little better in the 6th round, 5th round, 6th round. He was pot-shotting a little bit. He was starting to counter a little bit more. He landed an uppercut. He was starting to warm up a little bit. I mean, warm up. It was still the Antarctic. I know that people are going to say warm up. I know it didn't go above 22 Celsius or whatever the heck it is when we go over Europe. Well, I always like the Fahrenheit because I don't know what the Celsius is. And I thought that when that started to happen, I think maybe some more of the doubt and the fear of what's coming next. Like, what do I do? Like Eubank, like, what do I do? He's starting to hit me a little bit more. Again, he's not confident that he can do the things that more experienced fighters can do. He hasn't quite gotten there yet. And this was a big step up for him from what he'd been fighting. So all of a sudden, does he try to end it with a headbutt? I'm not saying he did that. But he gets reckless. He gets desperate. He's trying to not get into a trap where he can't get out of. So what's he do? He rushes in, but I'll tell you what he did do. I'll tell you what I can be 100%. And Richie is of course taping here, but Ben, our man Bennett, the editor, he's going to put this up for you. When he came in, Eubank, he took his left arm. I don't think he was throwing it to land a punch. He threw it. Again, I'm going to stand by this. My experience, my eyes tell me. He threw that left hand. He looped it behind his head, around his neck, and he pulled him like lassoing. Like you ever go to the rodeo and you lasso the calves and you pull them in, you pull their legs out from under them. He lassoed them. That was the lasso punch. I'm going to be like Muhammad Ali. I'm going to name punches. It was the lasso punch. And he threw it behind his neck, and he pulled him in. And he created a head clash. Now, I'm not saying he did it purposely, but I am going to say this. I stand on my stuff. I don't care if the daggers come at me because I'm confident in saying what I believe and what I see and what my experience tells me and my gut tells me. He purposely threw that punch behind his neck and purposely pulled him in. Was he doing it just to get a clinch? Because, again, he's unsure of himself. He's a little bit out of control. Yeah, okay. But that's what happened. And that's what created that horrific cut. And that's what stopped the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you nailed it, bud. When I watched it, I had that feeling. Was that intentional? And then after the fight, Catterall, when he gave his words in the ring after, he touched on that. And it sounds like he felt like it may have been intentional. I thought, to your point, that Catterall was starting to take over and starting to distance himself. And I thought, because you're getting a feel for that style, because it is an amateuristic style. You're not used to the angles that the punchers are coming from, and he started getting a better feel to be able to set up that uppercut and pick his spots. But yeah, you could see how raw, how green Eubank was.
And I'll finish with this, bud. In boxing, this is for the fans out there that are not familiar. We have a drill. If you go into a gym, sometimes you see trainers having their fighters do this drill, where it's like shadow boxing, but it's with somebody in front of you, an actual opponent. So the two fighters will get in the ring together, and they will square off without hitting each other. And I know you're laughing already, but it's real. They're shadow box, and they'll pull their punches short. So they'll stand off in front of each other. This way, instead of just shadow box, you have more imagination. You have something in front of you real that you can gauge. You can gauge range. You can see the punches coming, instead of just being in a mirror with yourself. And you both, nobody's hitting anyone, and you're both just throwing the punches short, and it's a drill. I'm telling you, there were times I watched that fight, I thought they were doing that drill. I'm not trying to be a wise guy. I'm not trying to, to just be a smart aleck and just throw, burbs at somebody. No. It looked like they were doing that drill, just pulling punches, not really trying to hit each other.
Yeah, I'm with you. The whole thing felt like they were doing drills. Even when Eubank was switching to southpaw and then switch right back. It was never to fight out of southpaw. He was just posturing. And that's what the whole entire fight was, unfortunately. I don't think too many people are going to be fired up to see the rematch, but time will tell. We'll see if they reschedule the rematch for that one. And we will see what's next for the two of those guys moving forward.
And the last one, they threw punches, both of them, like they were cheapskates, like they were paying for them. They were throwing punches like every punch, like somebody told them ahead of time, listen, every punch you throw, we're going to charge you $20. Oh, I don't want to run up a bill over here and be in debt. And they were throwing them like they were paying for them. And like I said, they were very frugal. They were cheapskates.
Well, we covered that one thoroughly. That was the only action to cover from this week's live boxing events. But we're going to cover some news and some previews. And before we do that, I want to circle back to last week's UFC pay-per-view event, Topuria Oliveira. We had a lot of comments and a lot of people asking for your opinion on Mr. Van. Josh Van fought Brandon Royval. It was on the undercard of that fight, like I said, and it was an all-out war. What a shootout, what a fight, what heart displayed by both men. Unbelievable skill. For Van, 6 fights now in the last year in the UFC. He's won 5 fights in a row, and this was only a 3-week turnaround from appearing on the UFC 316 card 3 weeks before that in Newark. Unbelievably active. He's rising. He is now the #1 challenger for Pantoja's belt. That will be next. But just wanted to get your take on that great fight and what you think of Van's boxing and striking abilities.
I loved him. First of all, he's got a hell of a chin. They both do. But let's touch on that a little bit, because he's not that hard to find either. Yeah, his offense, I love it. It's very standard. It's very standard and very boxing oriented, where it's good technique, it's solid basics. It's a jab and right hand for the most part. But he also mixes in counters. He takes a little step back, he'll counter in the middle. 1 minute he'll push and then he'll pull you. He'll push you a little bit, and then all of a sudden he's got good instincts. And a good general standard technique, boxing technique, where all of a sudden he'll take a little step back, and if you get a little over rambunctious, which his opponent did in spots, and you reach in a little bit, he's going to counter you. So he's going to mix in the leading off the jab with the countering. And he's always looking to set the table with the right hand. His legs are under him. He's balanced. He kicks well, too, by the way. But he's balanced. And I don't know how good he is on the mat, to be honest. He's going to, he's going to need at least some of that if he fights Pantoja, because Pantoja will try to take him to the mat, I think. But at the end of the day, I was impressed. I think if I talk about his strengths, his flaws would be sometimes he goes straight back on a straight line, 2-3 steps in a row, where if you do that with the wrong opponent, he'll follow you, he'll catch you. I also think he can move his head a little more. I'd like to see a little bit more of, somebody get in there and say, hey, move your head every once in a while. After you punch, move your head, slip a little bit. He could do a little more of that, but he is tough. He is confident. He is young. He punches well. As I said, he's got a great chin. It was a great fight. He cemented the win in the last seconds of the last round, with that knockdown. When he needed to get that, because it was a close fight. It was a very close fight. I thought he had the little edge, but like I said, he cemented it at the end. He knew how to close. And I like all that. I like him a lot. I think he's got a good shot with Pantoja. As long as he can, obviously I think he want to stay off getting taken to the floor. I think as far as the striking, I think he's got an edge over Pantoja. And I think that he'd have chances to catch Pantoja being a little reckless. Early in rounds, I noticed Pantoja, he's great. But he likes to kind of set the tempo and kind of set a mark and come right forward. And he's looking to get you on the floor because he's unbelievable on the floor. But when he comes forward, he can come forward reaching a little bit on a straight line. And I think that could be interesting against Van, where Van could counter him coming forward with that right hand, which he showed again. He showed the ability to do more than just lead. He could counter in spots too. So I loved him. And a young guy like that, and an ambitious guy like that wants to fight that often, wants to get better. Like Customato used to always say to me, hey, if you're a surgeon, you want to be the best surgeon, you got to do a lot of surgeries. You don't do one every 4 years. You don't do one a year. You got to do them more often so you get better as a surgeon. Same thing as a fighter. You want to be a great fighter, you got to fight more often. And this guy wants to be great.
Yeah, 23 years of age, very impressive. He's growing quite the fan base, and that was a great breakdown. I'm sure the viewers will appreciate you taking the time to break down Josh Van, and we will keep tabs and can't wait. You got me excited for that Pantoja match, so we will see when that one gets closer. We'll come back and we'll preview that fight.
One guy to stay away from. I'm not talking about weights now. I'm not even thinking about the weight classes. Not thinking about, but everybody, stay away from this guy Topuria. Stay away from him for the most part.
No question. I don't think anybody is raising their hand wanting to line up and fight that guy anytime soon. Besides, obviously, the payday.
Right. Even if your hand went up, right, your hand on its own would go back down.
We'll keep it moving. I want to throw at you some boxing news before we get into some of the boxing previews for July 11th and July 12th fights coming up. So the first news I want to throw at you, bud, Julio Chavez Jr., he was detained, arrested by ICE agents, and deported back to Mexico, allegedly working for the cartel in Mexico. Obviously, extremely sad news. This news comes only days after his fight versus Jake Paul. Just want to get your take on it.
Listen, if there's, obviously we have to believe what we're hearing, and that there's facts there, obviously. So it's sad in a lot of ways. This is a great boxing name. This is one of the great boxing names, not only in Mexico and anywhere in the sport. His father, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., one of the great fighters of all time, or maybe the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, but one of the great lightweights of all time. To to tarnish that name, like that, and the grief that it brings to the family. That's what strikes me first, is to know the grief that it's going to be. You make your choices. That's your choice. If that's the choice he made, there's repercussions for that choice. But then the collateral damage, that's what gets me, is what you do to your family by making that choice. It's sad. It's very disappointing to hear. Again, we're just reporting the facts, and those things don't happen unless obviously the people that go in Department of Justice, the Homeland Security, they don't go and arrest someone unless they have facts. At the end of the day, maybe it speaks a little bit to the lack of performance. I mean, we've known that he's had a lot of problems with drugs, with being in and out of the sport, losing the fights he's lost, going up in weight, just the way that he's handled himself, the way that he's behaved. Maybe now it ties in a little bit and gives some explanation, even though you don't want an explanation for that kind of behavior in some ways, but maybe it connects to why he's been that way for these years. But it also does give you a little maybe explanation again to why he didn't do anything that night, that he just looked like he wasn't there to fight. With all those things going on in his life, how could your mind be right? How could your body be right? How could you be in shape? How could, even against a guy who, like people love to say, he's a YouTuber, Teddy. Yeah, I know. Okay. But he's a YouTuber that took boxing seriously, that's big, that's strong, that had a vision, that, has put it on canvas, if you will, gone out there and acted on the vision. And then he's got this, he picks his spots, so he picked a good spot again. But again, it might give you a little bit of an answer to why, Chavez would have that kind of performance. That you can't be right if you're living that kind of life. You can't behave like a fighter if you're not living a life like anything close to being connected. And I'll leave you with this. As long as we went down that rabbit hole, what the freak? I go all the way. It's going to make some people start to think, hey, was there a deal there? Yeah, some people will think that. They'll say, wait a minute, I don't think that Jake Paul would do that. I really don't. I don't think. But some people might start to think that, did he know that he was getting a guy who wasn't really going to try? Because some people are going to say he only tried at the end of the fight. So was there, some people are going to say, hey, this guy, a guy like that, there's nothing beneath him. Is it possible there was a deal in hand? That now that we know this, I'm just putting out there what I know that some people are going to think. I'm not saying that I believe that, but I'm honest enough, and I think forthright enough to and sharp enough to say, hey, that stuff is probably floating in the air in the aftermath of him being arrested after that kind of performance. But there's some people are probably going to say, hey, maybe he was just there to grab a little more money and they made a deal, because there's some people that feel that the Jake Paul Tyson fight, there was a deal, that fight that didn't amount to be much of a fight. And how could it? One guy was 58, one guy was 28. I get it. But still, people expected, because of the greatness of Tyson, they expected something. And again, no accusations. I'm doing my job. My job is to put out what is floating in the air.
Those are great, valid points. I don't know how you can't think of some of those points or potential accusations when something like this comes out in the news. So I think it's fair for anybody to be elaborating and thinking of potential circumstances. What makes me think of a deal, as you said, being in place is, why did this happen after the fight? Why was the fight allowed to take place? Why didn't it happen before? I think I already know the answer to that, but that felt like more of maybe the deal in place.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Now we're going into another area there that We don't know. Who knows? That I would hate to think that law enforcement would wait to make the arrest and let him fight first. I don't think we want to go there, because I wouldn't want to go there and believe that. I would, but you never know. But I would believe that,
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it just doesn't make sense. And when something like this happens and things don't make sense, you start to think of other possible scenarios.
Yeah, no, 100%. And how can you not? How can you not if you got a brain in your head and, you've lived a little bit of life where, sometimes things aren't what you wish they were, or aren't what they appeared to be, or what they were supposed to be. If unless you've been in a cave somewhere, and you haven't been out there in the world to see that some things that aren't always the best things do happen for the wrong reasons. Again, unless you're a guy that's got a beard down to his ankles, because he's been sitting in some log cabin, Rich, for, what was that guy's name? Rip Van Winkle? Yeah. Boy, the world changed when he woke up.
Up in your old neck of the woods.
My old neck of the woods.
Upstate New York.
Yeah, the Rip Van Winkle Bridge. Used to go over it a few times every day.
That's right. I want to throw out some more news to you, bud, before we move on to these previews. Like I said, the first preview will be Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. That's the trilogy coming up on Friday. So talking about trilogies and breaking news, Tyson Fury announced he's coming back and he'll be fighting Usyk Part 3 in 2026. Now, obviously, Usyk has his work cut out. He still needs to defend his titles against Daniel Dubois. That's on July 19th. But I just want to get your early thoughts and throw this one at you. What do you make of Tyson Fury's announcement?
Listen, I got a couple of feelings about it, and I get right to it. Number one, can't they wait until a fight is over before they announce another one? You got a dangerous fight with Dubois. Really, they didn't used to do this back in the old days. How old am I? I don't know. But they didn't used to do it in the simpler days. They just made fights. And when the fight was over, they made another fight. They didn't make fights down the road where a guy hasn't even fought yet, and they're making a fight and they're making an announcement for a fight, like I said, where one of them, Usyk in this case, would have to get past Dubois, who's a very dangerous fight to get past. It ain't going to be like the first one. It's going to be much more dangerous. That one was dangerous too, but this is going to be much more, because Dubois has found himself. He's not going to fall apart like he did the first time. So I just have a problem with announcing these fights. I know everybody wants to make money, and that gets in the way, and they're so quick to want to think about the money. One thing at a time. I mean, it's almost like I'm a little superstitious, like you're jinxing a guy. You're saying you're going to make... We never did that. We never let our fighters ever think about the next fight, though. It's a possibility you're going to fight this guy. Hey, I got to beat this guy. There ain't no possibility. I got nothing if I don't beat this guy in front of me. Then I'll think about tomorrow. I'll think about next year, next month, or whatever the hell it is. So that's my first thing. My first thought, I have a problem when they're announcing these fights before you even fight the fight that's in front of you. And the other thing, I don't want to see it. I'll tell you why. I've seen enough. I've seen Usyk beat Fury. I love them both. And they've done nothing but good for boxing and their families and themselves. And they're tremendous. They're warriors. They're everything. I don't want to see it no more. I saw it twice. Usyk won twice. He won twice. And the first one could have been a knockout if he didn't hold himself back. To be honest, when Fury was going down, he stopped and let the referee get in. He could have put that final blow in there that might have hurt him. But he wouldn't have got up, probably, with that fight, as great as Fury is. So, been there, done that, seen that movie. Don't make another one. I'm not. But here's the real thing that, for me, as a lifetime boxing guy, but as a parent and a grandparent, I think that both these guys are getting towards the end. They're getting very close to the end of what God gave them and what they worked so hard to develop, their skills. This is an unforgiving business. It's got a shelf life on it. You can only go so far taking what these great warriors take. And to the point where there ain't nothing else to be taken. I don't want that to happen. I want to see Usyk get through the Dubois fight, if he wins it, and walk off into the sunset and enjoy what he's done for himself and his family. And for us, enjoy it. I don't want to see one of those sad stories like I saw with Ali or Joe Louis or those other great, great, great fighters. So for all those reasons, I'm not a big fan of it. For all those reasons, because I think it is time for Fury to go and enjoy. And I know he has a problem. He's very honest about it with emotional, with the mental health, with the different things, with bipolar, with depression. And that's one of the reasons why I look up to him. That he pulled himself out of that, and he made himself an example to so many people that you can pull yourself out of it. You can come out of depression. You can make a choice of living instead of dying. You can get over drugs. You can come out of that freaking spiral. And he did it. And to me, he's a hero. And he is. People say, oh, he made a lot of money. He's this. He's a hero in that way, whether you like to say it or not. I don't want to see our heroes go down when they already lifted us up by being heroes. I want to leave it that way. He's taking a lot of punishment. He's getting up there in years. I think it's a good time for him to leave too. I know you want to leave on a winning note. I get it. But I also, with that, I get what can come with that too. It can come with stuff where nobody wins. Where nobody wins. I don't want that. But that's my feeling. I've been in the business my whole life. That's just my feeling about it. Whatever it is, obviously at the end of the day, I'll be there reporting on it. I'll be there, but those are my thoughts right now.
No, well said. There's some great thoughts you just shared. And I do think it is a little odd in getting ahead of themselves, announcing some of these fights the way they did. It backfired with Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. And I also just look at it in the NFL. We always talked about you don't want to give guys bulletin board material. And what better motivator of bulletin board material if Daniel Dubois needs any extra motivation than this, than announcing Usyk's next opponent before you even fight him?
Such a good point, bud. Really. So I didn't even think of that. But I'm so glad that you threw that on there. You're right. The guy's feeling disrespected. You don't want a guy who's already gotten better to feel disrespected. I mean, like you said, you're going to put another log on that fire? No, you don't want to do that because then you might wind up having a freaking furnace. And you don't want that.
Well, we'll be talking much more about this moving forward. And next week's episode, we'll be giving a preview of the Usyk-Dubois fight coming up on July 19th. So tune in next week for that. Just want to take a quick pause, give a thank you to our sponsor, Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens introduces the new AG1 Next Gen. Now includes 5 clinically studied probiotic strains shown to support digestive and immune health with added vitamins and minerals. They've also now have new travel pack designs resulting in a much easier pour to improve the customer experience. So whether you guys are looking to boost your energy levels, support your immune system, or address gut health, Athletic Greens is the way to go. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/atlas to claim your special offer of 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. All right, bud, we're going to keep it moving. We want to throw out some boxing previews coming up, starting off on Friday, New York City, Madison Square Garden. This will be on Netflix. Jake Paul, MVP Promotions, is bringing an all-female card to the Garden, and the headliner being Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, Part 3. First 2 were unbelievable fights. Both fights Taylor won by decision. The first one was a split decision. The second one was a unanimous decision. Want to get your take, preview, what to expect, Part 3.
These girls are great. These women, these ladies, these warriors, they're great. They make great fights. I'll stay on the same pattern I was on before because I can't help it. This is where you're taking me. This is where you're taking me. These are the topics. So it's gonna elicit certain feelings from me, and some of them are similar to other feelings because of the same reasons. Because the reasons are similar. I think when I think of these two great women fighters, these two great fighters, period. You don't even have to separate if they're women or they're just fighters. They're great. And they have skills, they have wills, they have it all. I think of Ali and Frazier in Manila. They left parts of themselves in that ring. There's no doubt. Anybody who don't understand that, they just don't understand boxing. They haven't been around it enough. They don't. They're not capable of understanding what I'm saying. But they were never the same. I mean, there was a lot taken out of those two warriors before they got to Manila, but a lot more of them was left in that humid, hot ring of Manila. And the price is paid later on, when the cameras are far gone and the lines of adoring fans are no longer there. That's when sometimes, unfortunately, the price is paid. I just don't want to see these two great fighters pay a price. I think that they have. I'll watch it and I'll look forward to it. But I think that from the first fight, which was unbelievable, set a record in Madison Square Garden, the first time that women headlined a fight as the main event at Madison Square Garden. It was over, and they each got over $1 million. It was tremendous. It was history, and everything they deserved from their history, because of their history. I mean, you got Katie, the gold medalist, representing Ireland, Serrano, just tremendous. Katie's more of a complete boxer. She's but she got a slug. She'll slug. She has the slug every time she fights Serrano at some point. But she'll also use her legs. She'll counter punch. She'll pot shot. She'll use all that. Serrano is an offensive machine. She'll go to the body. She's coming forward. She's the better puncher of the two. She's just resilient. She's relentless. It makes for great fights, but it also makes for damage. And there's been damage in both those first two fights, where each one of them have, again, to use the same terminology, have left parts of themselves in the ring. And the one thing that's never going to dissipate, and it didn't dissipate, even with punches and age, with Ali and Frazier, their character. That will stay. That will last the test of time. That will last bullets and everything that comes at it. Character will not be destroyed. You have it, it's a lifetime thing. They have it. That character will still show up, and it will guarantee another great fight, like the Thrill of Manila. Those two weren't the same, Ali and Frazier, physically. They weren't as great physically as they were years earlier. But their character was still great. So it demanded a great fight. It guaranteed because of how they were going to behave. Because they don't know how to behave any other way. No matter how old. No matter how broken up they might be. And this is similar here. These two, after their two first wars, now they're going to go into a war. They don't know anything else. It's not going to be like, hey, Teddy, maybe they're going to, maybe they... No, that ain't happening. Maybe. Then go take a bunch of coins and throw them in a wishing well. And good luck, pal. I hope your wishes come true. But it ain't happening. That ain't reality in the ring. With these two women that fight the way they fight. They're going to go and they're going to get at it. And they're going to do damage again. After they've done damage twice in 2 10-round fights. So I think it comes down, as far as my analysis, who's got more left? I don't know that I know. Who's got more left? Does Serrano? I think there's a chance maybe Serrano has a little more. Even though I picked Taylor twice, I'm not going against her. I am not going to go against her now. I was with her for the first two. I'll do it again. But whoever has more left is got the better chance to win this fight. Because it's going to be the same tactics. It's going to be the same skill levels. And it's going to be the same character. Heart and determination. Getting at it. You're going to have a spot where Serrano's going to corner her, whether it's in the middle of the ring or near the ropes, and she's going to open up with a fusillade of punches. And Taylor's going to answer back. And Taylor's going to try to keep her off balance, try to use her legs, but it's still going to come down to that, to those moments when they both engage inside. And will this be the time that maybe Serrano breaks Taylor? I don't think Taylor's getting broke. Although I think that the older she gets and the older they both get and the longer they both stay around, obviously, there's a better chance of that. I mean, you don't need Teddy Atlas to tell you that. Time deteriorates everything, But I think it'll be another great fight. It can't be anything but that. And it will come down to who's got more left and who, again, geography. I always say geography. Who gets more longer moments in their geography? Does Serrano get longer moments against the ropes where she traps Katie, or in the middle of the ring where she engages Katie to punch with her? Does she get more of those moments? Or does Katie get more of the moments where she could still use her legs? Pop, pop. Move, pop, 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 counter, move. She counters brilliantly with that right hand, by the way. Brilliantly with that right hand. And she needs it. And she'll need it again.
Great preview. Another great fight coming up. I cannot wait to watch them. And we'll find out. At 39 years of age, will Taylor get the sweep? Or at 36 years of age now, will Serrano get on the board? It's rare to get a trilogy when it's not 1-1 heading into the third fight. But we're getting it. They deserve it. And we will circle back on this one.
That 3 years you just pointed out, maybe that's the difference. Maybe that 3 years, that if it is going to swing this time for Serrano, that 3 years will have something to do with that swing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And maybe that 3 years has something to do with the odds to this fight according to Las Vegas. Because Taylor, as we said, won the first two fights. She's the underdog. She's plus 150 heading into the trilogy match.
Listen, I didn't plan on doing a handicapping section over here, but are you giving me plus 150 with Katie? I'm not throwing it back at you. I'll take it. I'll say, okay.
We will keep moving. That's going to be again on Friday, July 11th on Netflix. Now we're going to preview the card on July 12th, which is going to be on DAZN. This is the Ring 3. This is going to be in Queens at the Louis Armstrong Tennis Stadium. It's going to be an awesome setup. It's never been done before, a boxing match being inside the tennis arena there. You will be there live watching the fights. And I want to get right into it, bud. We're going to start with the main event. That's Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda. Now, Shakur is pretty well rested. Last fight was about 5 months ago. He had the last-minute replacement, Josh Padley. Made easy work of him. And Zepeda coming off of two very tough fights back-to-back versus Tevin Farmer. The most recent one only 3 or just over 3 months ago. Is this fight too much too soon for him? Maybe kind of like it just was for Tevin Farmer in his return fight versus Floyd Schofield. Anyway, want to get right into it, bud. Your breakdown preview, what to expect, Stevenson versus Zepeda.
I think that's a great setup. Those questions are questions that have to be asked. They are part of the setup. They are part of the handicapping. You have to ask those questions. I think the way I take this one is this. You got a relentless guy and a body puncher. If you're going to fight a guy who can be a magician in the ring like Shakur, if you're going to fight that kind of guy, you want to go to the body. Take his legs away. Take some air out of the tires. Make him a little easier to find. So you want to do that. So he's got that. You figure, okay, he's got that. and you want to put pressure on him. He's got that. He's relentless. He throws a lot of punches. He keeps coming. But there's another part to that. He keeps coming. He's relentless, but he gets hit. He's not hard to find. Shakur's got the advantage as far as speed, accuracy with punches. He don't throw as many punches as Zepeda, but he picks spots really well. He pot shots. He snipers really well. He's accurate. So you're going to have an accurate guy on the outside who's going to have the chance to, we look at the relentlessness, but we also look at the predictability, at least I do, that the guy's coming in that front door and that the faster, sharper Stevenson's going to have a chance to have some fun to find him. I'm going to put a cap on it faster than I sometimes do. I'm going to say this. We're either going to see... Everybody's been mad at Shakur. They want to see him fight more. They want to see this. But meanwhile, he just keeps winning. He keeps winning. He does what he has to do. And he's a really talented fighter. But it's not enough. Not with the fans. No, I want to see something else. I want to see kind of like what they wanted to see with Duran, with Leonard, with Duran the first time. They knew that he was fast. They knew Leonard was great. They knew he was a gold medalist from the Olympics, and Shakur's a silver medalist. He had that pedigree. He had that talent. But they wanted to see what will he do when he's forced to fight. What will he do then? And they saw it with Duran. He lost, but his stock went up. The admiration of the fans went up for Leonard. And Leonard became a better fighter from that. He wouldn't have won the Tommy Hearns fight, I don't think, if he didn't have that fight to really make him a better fighter. So I think this fight's going to come where some people are going to get maybe, or hoping to get what they asked for, to see Shakur tested, to see, okay, what's he going to do when a guy comes and brings fire? When he brings the fire, what's he going to do, run from the fire? Or is he going to go through the fire? I think that's right. So at the end of the day, either you're going to see a guy exposed, or you're going to see a guy brilliant. I have a feeling you see a guy brilliant in Shakur. That's my feeling as a boxing lifer. You're either going to see him exposed where he don't handle the heat, or where he just dismantles it. He takes it apart, piece by piece. He's too fast, he's too smart, he's too talented, he's too crafty. You're either going to see that, or the other guy is going to consume him with the fire. He's going to get into the geometry I talk about, get inside, go to work, and take away the speed, take away the combinations, take away the confidence, take away all of it. It's going to be one or the other. I'm going to bet that it's going to be the other. The one where maybe you're finally going to get what you asked for with Shakur Stevenson. You got to get him to perform the way you want him to perform, where he's got somebody coming at him and he hits on all 8 cylinders, if you will, that he shows all of the things that we knew he had the talent, but we didn't know if he had the stomach to show it. Is that fair, bud?
That's great breakdown. I couldn't agree with you more. The way I see it is, I think that, as we always say, styles make fights. I think the style of Zepeda is tailor-made for Shakur. I think there's going to be too many openings for him to fill. And if Tevin Farmer could fill him and drop Zepeda, which he did in the first fight, I think those opportunities are going to be there for the younger and faster Shakur Stevenson. Plus 250 Shakur Stevenson by knockout. That's something that I know it's not his demeanor, but I think there might be value, and I could see that playing out in this one.
Yeah, see, that, again, I know you said it before, and, I'm not, you're my son. I don't have to blow smoke at you. You know what I mean? You're my son. But that's why it's more enjoyable now, really, because doing this with you, I can get that back and forth. I can get you to take it to the next place. After I said what I said, you bring out that point because of your acumen in boxing, because of your passion in the sport, because of your familiarity with the sport of your whole life, that you could bring out something else that opens up another interesting little place to go. Yeah, I agree. It's going to get us some answers. And that's what we want. We want answers.
Absolutely. And Maybe the Farmer fights will serve Zepeda in the form of Farmer was a southpaw and Shakur is a southpaw, so getting used to that style coming into this fight. But we will be circling back after that fight and recapping it. We'll move on to the co-feature, same card there in Queens, New York. That's going to be Hamza Sheeraz versus Edgar Berlanga. And I give credit to both guys for taking this fight. Berlanga, he's been pretty inactive since the Canelo fight. He had one fight. It was a one-round knockout after the Canelo fight. But for Sheeraz, he's coming off of a very tough fight, a draw versus Adames at the 160-pound division, which was a title fight. This will be his first fight at 168 pounds. This will be his first fight with Andy Lee in his corner training him. Great stylistic matchup to me. Want to just get right into it and hear your take. But what do you make of Berlanga and Sheeraz?
I think that the last thing you said, I'll start with that, Andy Lee in his corner can only help. Andy Lee is he's a top trainer. He's a former world champion. He's done a great job with Joe Parker and with
Paddy Donovan.
Keith Sullivan's fighter, kid in Ireland, who I think is going to be a welterweight champ pretty soon, by the way. And he had
Yes, he will be fighting the rematch with Lewis Crocker in a few months.
Yeah, I think he'll stop him, as he stopped him the first time, but the referee screwed up that fight, quite frankly. And really did, really bad. And I don't know if he did it because he had an interest in that. I don't know. I don't know any of that information. All I know is what he did. He definitely favored Crocker in that fight to a point that he shouldn't have. And it changed the outcome of what should have been a knockout for Paddy Donovan. But anyway, they get a chance to do it again, and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Andy Lee is a positive because he's shown it. Again, he's shown it by the results that he's gotten with the fighters that he's been training. I find it really not only an interesting fight, I find it in a way to be just a hopeful. I'm struggling with the word I want, but where it's good to see from the Sheeraz side, both sides, but especially Sheeraz. He came off a tough performance for his first world title try. He got a draw. A lot of people didn't think he deserved it against Adames. I thought the fight was closer than other people thought, where it was much closer. But I grant you that you could see where people favored Adames in that fight and where Sheeraz wasn't great in that fight. I don't think he was mature enough for that fight yet. I think he was missing a little bit of the professional experience. He's got the talent. He had a good amateur pedigree, but you still got to have the right amount of experience, which brings the right amount of seasoning with it. And with that, it brings confidence. And I think that Sheeraz was missing some of that in his first go-around for the world title against Adames. I think that fight served him. I think that fight, well, first of all, it had to serve him, because if it didn't, he's going to lose to Berlanga. But I think that it served him to make him a better fighter, because that's what happens. When you know how to match guys, you know how to develop guys, and they have talent, but they need that seasoning, they need that fight to bring them over the top. You give them that fight. And I think that was the fight for Sheeraz. I think you're going to see a more complete guy. You're going to see a guy who fights still using his height, sharpshooter, good puncher, long and tall, knows how to fight long and tall. But you're going to see a more confident fighter. You're going to see a guy who, again, the Adames fight will bring him to that next level. If you don't, then they made a mistake. Then they made a mistake in taking Berlanga, because he's a good puncher. He's big. He's strong. He's getting more confident too. It's an interesting fight. And again, I give credit to both, but I give a lot of credit to Sheeraz, coming off a disappointing performance against Adames. Disappointing to the fans. Disappointing to a lot of people. But probably his own people were smart enough to see, and Adames himself, that this fight was the fight he needed if he's going to become the fighter they hope he becomes. You know what I mean, bud? I think that was the fight that will catapult him. And now they're going to find out if that's the truth. And Berlanga, I don't know how he makes weight. This guy, I give him credit, but man, his weight cut's got to be crazy. He is big. He is huge. When he gets out of that ring, I don't know what he's going to weigh, but he's going to be a lot bigger than, not taller maybe, but a lot bigger, more mass than Sheeraz. It'll probably look like a freaking cruiserweight with a middleweight. I mean, he is that big. And Sheeraz is moving up in weight on top of it. Let's not forget that. He's moving up, right? He's moving up.
From 160 to 168, which I think will serve him. I think he was draining himself to make 160.
That's a good point because he was a tall, thin guy. You're right. That might. And maybe that's part of the play. Maybe that's part of the plan in their camp that, hey, they don't know. Other people don't know what we know. We know we were draining ourselves. We know we're going to be better served moving up. They think we're taking a risk. No, we're doing the right thing. We're going up. It's a good move for us. Obviously, not as dangerous as everyone else thinks, going up there with a bigger guy after we had a performance that was less than, scintillating at middleweight. Berlanga's a good puncher. I still think Berlanga is a work in progress mentally. I still think he's a guy who's looking to get his confidence more, even though he talks with it, with the bravado and with everything else and all that stuff. And he knows how to fight, and he has talent. But I still think that mentally there's still some areas with him that still have to be completed, that still have to be filled in for himself. I really do. And maybe Sheeraz sees that, or he senses that, and he's going to see if he can... if he can capitalize in those areas, if he can take advantage in those areas, he's going to have to control the outside Sheeraz. He's going to have to try to stay from being, in too tight with the bigger, stronger guy. He's going to have to make him pay a price for trying to make real estate on him. He's going to have to be on his P's and Q's all night, and he's going to have to be a lot better than he was against Adames. I believe he will be. And because I believe in this kid. I like Berlanga too, but I believe in this kid that he feels he has a destiny and that he feels that this is part of fulfilling his destiny. And we'll find out. It's an interesting card, and it's an interesting fight.
Yeah, no question. Vegas has this fight as a pick'em, and as you just said, it's a great card. For me personally, this fight fires me up the most. I can't wait to watch it. So we'll be circling back after the fight next week for Sheeraz and Berlanga. So we'll keep it moving. The third fight on that card, we're going to do Alberto Puello versus Subriel Matias. Now, Puello is 4 months removed from his last fight in title defense. Had a tough fight, which he was victorious and defended his belt versus Sander Martin. And he's taking on Matias, who is always fun to watch, former world champion, one of your favorite fighters. And I feel like this is another great stylistic matchup. You know what you're getting in regards to Matias every time he fights. He brings it. Puello, tall, long, good counterpuncher, undefeated. What can we expect in this matchup?
The problem with Matias is this. It's what's great about him. That's his strength is his weakness. What's great about him is his passion, his fire, his relentlessness, his toughness, his chin, his attitude. I love it. He never stops coming. He never stops punching. He throws good short punches. That's his strength. That's what is great. Where it's also his weakness is he's always coming the same way. You always know where he's coming. And you can hit him. And when you fight at that intensity, at that level, with that style, going 100 miles an hour, and he don't go, he doesn't go on the side streets. He's on the highway all the time. This ain't a guy who's slowing it down to 55. No, he's on the Autobahn. This guy's over in Europe. He's on the Autobahn. He's doing 120, 130, 140, 150. The problem with that is you do that with your car, sooner or later, guess what? It starts to burn out. The engine starts to burn out. You wonder how long you can do that. You know what I mean? It starts to burn out. You wonder with a fighter, when will he burn out with that style? That style usually doesn't last nearly as long as the guys that are the clever guys, the guys that are, doing what we call the sweet science, if you will, the more of the boxing and picking spots. So you wonder, back to what we said earlier, what does he have left? Even though he's still young, even though he hasn't been, but every fight is all out war. So guys like that, you don't know. It's hard to calibrate when they will start to that dissipation will start to show. It's hard to calibrate that. He's in there with a tough style guy. Puello's got the right style to beat him. He got beat already, Matias. He, again, got taken advantage of being predictable, coming in one way. Puello, he can counter. He's long. He's tall. He can counter on the outside. He can also fight inside. He's good defensively. He beat Gary Russell in the fight. Russell went on to win the world title against Valenzuela after that, and he looked magnificent.
Yeah, Gary Antoine Russell. Yep.
Yeah, Antoine, I'm sorry. But there's so many of them. It's like the George Foreman family.
Gary Russell is coming back, by the way, after 3 years of inactivity. But yeah, this was his younger brother.
Yeah, it's like the George Foreman family. Hey, George, hey, George, George, hey, George, how you doing, George? Hey, George, good, George. Gary. So anyway, great family. The father did a great job with them. And before he left his earth, the Russell father did a great job putting them in place to become world champions. But again, that was another fight where, for Russell, that loss to Puello made him a better fighter, because he showed that when he got his next shot against Valenzuela. He showed that. And that's what happens with fighters. Maybe Sheeraz will show that. That's the point I was making earlier in that tough fight he had with Adames. That was a draw, but a lot of people thought he really lost that fight. So Puello, as far as the dimensions of this fight, long, tall, he's got the advantage on the outside. He can counterpunch, he can sniper, and he also, again, he knows how to go inside and, make you miss, counter in between your shots. It should be a hell of a fight. It should be a terrific fight. I love Matias. I hate to go against him. He is an offensive machine. He's an offensive delight. He's a delight. You love offense? Matias is your man. He's your man, because that's all he gives you. Defense, not quite the same. Puello will give you both, but Puello will not throw the amount of punches that Matias, so therefore he can be out-hustled. But I just think that Puello controlling the geometry on the outside, being good enough on the inside when he has to, I think that's going to be a good fight. I think a little edge to Puello because of what I just laid out. What does the bookmakers say? Do they agree with me?
Matias is minus 125, Puello minus 105. It's just about a pick 'em. Yeah. So, and to your point with the one, or he has two losses in career, but one of the losses from Matias was Liam Perro, a bigger, tall, long southpaw who looks to counter, pick spots. Some similarities maybe to the style he'll be fighting versus Puello this go around.
100%, but again, that's why I love doing this show with you, because you make sure that nothing is missed. You bring up all the points. The last thing I say that might be an X factor, the fight's at Madison Square Garden, right? Am I correct? But Matias is Puerto Rican.
The fight is in Queens at the Louis Armstrong Stadium.
I'm sorry. It's not about. But still, there'll be plenty of Puerto Rican fans there. But there'll be plenty of fans for Puello too. I was thinking
there's going to be extra Puerto Rican fans with Berlanga on that card. But
that's
you were
true.
Thinking of Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano at that time at Madison Square Garden the night before.
Yes, sir. I was. I needed a not an 8 count. I needed like a 5 count. And I'm good. I'm steady on my feet again.
No, you're always good. We're going to wrap it up with the final fight on that card there in Queens. And this is going to be David Morrell versus Imam Khataev. Now, Morrell, Everybody knows former world champion, 168-pounder. He's moved up to 175. He's been there. This will be his third fight now. Most recently had the tough, grueling fight, which he lost, his only professional loss, to David Benavidez. And he's fighting a guy a lot of people aren't too familiar with. But just want to hear your breakdown of this fight. But Khataev, a former Olympian bronze medalist. He's 10-0 with 9 knockouts, 30 years of age. This could be a very entertaining fight. What should we expect for this one, Morrell versus Khataev?
This could be similar to when Crawford moved up to 154, right? And
fought Israel Madrimov.
Nobody knew nothing about Matias. Oh, you don't have enough pro fights. You only got 10 fights. Oh. He's going to get destroyed. Oh. They forget you don't have to have that many pro fights if you had a zillion amateur fights and you fought everybody in the world, all different styles, all different freaking levels. You don't have to necessarily have 20, 30 pro fights when you make that move. Yeah, I think this is similar to that. Do not sleep on Khataev. Am I saying his name? I want to say it right.
Yeah, I think you are. Khataev. I was saying Khataev.
No, Khataev. I say Khataev. You say tomato, I say tomato. Khataev. Look, whatever it is, it ain't no walk in the park for Morrell. Morrell has not been active. He has not fought since, right? He's how long's it been since he's been in the ring for Morrell now?
That was 5 months ago when he fought David Benavidez.
All right, so it's not that long. Okay, he's coming off that loss. He took some punishment in that fight, though. This is, again, I'll say it again. This is no layup. This is no, Christmas present, I don't think, for Morrell. I think Morrell's more talented. I think at the end of the day that was show. But Khataev, he's strong physically. He's a decent puncher. I don't think he's a great puncher, but he's a good enough puncher. He goes to the body. He's he can mix it up. He's got legs on him. He'll come forward. He'll look to put the pressure. He'll fight with you in the trenches if he thinks that's the best way to go. But he'll also go in and out on you. That can give you, a little bit of a difficult look, where he'll use his legs. He'll bop, get out, go in and out, get to the side a little bit. Where I think that he has a shortcoming is that I've seen him get hit clean shots. I've seen him sometimes put himself against the ropes where he tries to get a little bit cute defensively. He stays there a little too long. He better not do that with Morrell, and he could get caught. I also see where when he does go out, he'll go out straight. Sometimes where you can catch him going out. And also, he is physically strong. And when he's throwing those punches, sometimes he'll get a little wide where maybe you can punch in between. Don't forget, Morrell has all that Cuban pedigree, that amateur background, besides being a world champion. I mean, he unbelievable amateur at a young age. And he's seen it all. If this guy's a little fat with a punch, Morrell will punch inside those punches. I think that it's going to be an interesting fight. I think that Morrell will get a test here. He will either catch Khataev. He will either catch Khataev with a big shot and hurt him. It might come down to how good a chin Khataev has. I can't give you a complete gauge on that except this. What I've seen of Khataev doing my homework, he's got a good chin. Have I seen him hit by Morrell? No. Morrell's a little better puncher than what I've seen him hit with. But he has a good, reliable set of whiskers from what I've seen so far. He might need that. At the end of the day, I think he'll give Morrell some moments. I think Morrell's talent will probably show itself at the end. How big an underdog is Khataev?
Yeah, he's a monster underdog. Morrell is minus 650, Khataev plus 400, and they have the over-under 7.5 rounds, minus 115 both ways.
Khataev might surprise some people. I put it this way. I'm not saying he beats Morrell. I just said I think Morrell's more talented, and at the end of the day, maybe that talent will show itself, will rise. What's that old saying? Cream rises to the top. So maybe at the end of the day, that's why I know my friend, our dear friend, our family's dear friend, Pedro Martinez Fraga, hopes that, because, he's from Cuba. He's a great lawyer. He was a fighter. He was a pro fighter. He's a great person. But he does have a little favoritism towards the Cuban fighters. And I'm sure that he hopes that Morrell doesn't get tested too much in this fight. I think he will, though. I think that he will get tested in this fight, and it'll be just a matter of how he handles that test, whether or not he'll come back to be a world champion again.
Yeah, Khataev, this will be his first fight in America. His fights in the past have been Australia, Russia, and Canada. So this will be his first exposure for many here in the United States.
Yeah, and I pronounced his... I set a record. I pronounced his name different, Richie. But no, I think I broke my record. I'm serious. I know the fans out there love it. They do. They love this. I think I pronounced his name 8 different ways in a 5-minute segment. Yeah, that might be a record.
If he pulls off the upset at a 4-1 underdog, we'll make sure we get his name pronounced right next week.
I love this guy. See that? I love this guy. What can I tell you? Perfect. Put a bow on it, baby.
Well, I love you, bud. I hope all the viewers enjoyed it and loved this show. That was a lot of fights that we previewed for next week. Circle back next week. We'll have the recaps. Be on the lookout. Thursday or Friday of this week coming up, we'll have new historic Teddy content list. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you all next week.